ghosts in every house built on sacrifice. I just never thought they would be ghosts of the living. I sat on the Italian leather sofa, the one I'd paid for as a housewarming gift, and watched my son, Alex, fidget with his wedding ring. The air was thick with the cloying scent of vanilla from a dozen candles his wife Chloe had lit. It was a scent meant to signal comfort, but to me it smelled like something beautiful trying to cover up something rotten. So I began, my voice attempting a cheerfulness I didn't feel. I was thinking for Christmas dinner I could finally make my turkey, the one with the sage stuffing your mother loved so much. The words hung in the air, a memory of my late wife, Sophia, in a house she never got to see. Alex's shoulders tensed. He wouldn't meet my eyes, choosing instead to stare at the flawless marble coffee table, another one of my contributions to their perfect life. "Dad," he started, his voice barely a whisper, "about Christmas. It's just Chloe's parents are coming this year. And, well, we don't think you can be here." The vanilla scent suddenly made me nauseous. "What do you mean you don't think I can be here? This is your home." "It's complicated," he mumbled, shrinking under my gaze. "They have their own traditions. It would just be easier. The word twisted in my gut. I looked around the room, the silk curtains framing the bay window, the polished oak floors, the very foundation of the house. All of it was built on my second mortgage. Every spare dollar for my construction business, every sleepless night, every postponed vacation, it was all here in this room. My life's work was the stage for a life I was no longer invited to be a part of. Through the arched doorway, I saw the gleaming red KitchenAid mixer on the granite countertop, a $2,000 monument to Chloe's fleeting desire to bake, used twice, and now a silent, shiny accusation. "Where am I supposed to go, Alex?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. His face crumpled with a weak, useless guilt. "Maybe you could visit Tia Elena, or we could celebrate the weekend after Christmas. It'll be just us then, the weekend after." As if the magic and meaning of the day were just an appointment to be rescheduled. I pushed myself up from the sofa, my knees protesting under the weight of a sudden, crushing sorrow. On the wall, a gallery of their perfect life. Wedding photos, vacation snaps. I was in a few of the older ones, my smile looking more forced. With each passing year, my presence shrinking until I was just a face in the background. I walked to the door and gripped the cold, heavy brass knob. "Tell Chloe's parents," I said. "Feliz Navidad," I said without turning back. I heard him call my name, a weak, pleading sound, but it was swallowed by the decisive click of the door closing behind me. Sitting in my truck, I watched the warm glow of the house, my house, and felt a coldness spread through my bones that had nothing to do with the December air. On the long drive home, my mind wasn't on Christmas. It was on the numbers. An endless, brutal calculation. $2,800 transferred on the 15th of every month for 5 years, 60 payments. That was $168,000. Not including the down payment from Sophia's life insurance, not including the furniture, the appliances, the landscaping. I parked in my own cracked driveway, a daily reminder of where all my money went. Inside, my small house felt cavernous and silent. Just as I was sinking into my worn armchair, my phone buzzed. Chloe. Of course, the cleanup crew. "Julian," she began, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Alex told me there was a little misunderstanding." I'm so sorry if your feelings were hurt." "There was no misunderstanding, Chloe," I said, my voice flat. "You made it perfectly clear where I stand." A sigh of exasperation on her end. "Look, you have to see it from my parents' perspective. They're very traditional. They appreciate a certain atmosphere, an atmosphere I would disrupt." "Frankly, yes," she snapped, the sweetness gone. "They aren't used to, well, your kind of food. The spices, the noise, and they're intellectuals, Julian. My father is a tenured professor. My mother speaks 4 languages. What would you possibly contribute to the conversation? Stories about laying tile?" The insult was so clean, so precise, it left me breathless. But it was her next words that shattered something deep inside me. "Money doesn't define a person's worth, Julian. Breeding does." To be honest, Sophia understood that. She knew her place. She was simpler. She didn't make waves, Sophia. She dared to speak my wife's name. The woman who had worked beside me, building our business from dust and dreams. The woman who would have given anything to see her son happy, but never, ever would have tolerated this. My hand tightened on the phone until my knuckles were white. A cold rage, pure and clear, washed over me. "Chloe," I said, my voice transformed into something even I didn't recognize. "You have just made a grave miscalculation. Consider our account settled." In every sense of the word, I hung up before she could respond. In my office, I pulled out a thick file. 5 years of bank statements. 5 years of bleeding myself dry for their suburban dream. The bleeding was about to stop. I dialed my bank. After the automated prompts, a polite human voice answered. "I need to cancel a recurring automatic transfer," I said. I gave her the details. "Yes, Mr. Ramirez, I see it. A monthly payment of $2,800 to Alex and Chloe Ramirez. You wish to cancel this?" I looked around my old kitchen, at the chipped countertops and the flickering fluorescent light I kept meaning to fix. "Yes," I said, a profound sense of release washing over me. "Effective immediately." "It's done, sir. The transfer has been canceled." I hung up and walked to my fireplace. One by one, I tossed the bank statements into the grate. I struck a match, and 5 years of servitude, of sacrifice, of biting my tongue, went up in flames. The warmth on my face was the most real thing I had felt all day. The next morning, I was enjoying my first peaceful cup of coffee in years when my phone rang. 10:47 a.m., Chloe. "Julian, I don't have time for whatever game you're playing," she said, her voice sharp and impatient. "You need to pick up my parents from the airport. Their flight lands at 2 p.m. The audacity was stunning. "Have you forgotten our conversation last night?" I asked calmly. "We can be angry later. Right now, we have to be practical. You're the only one free in the middle of the day, so get in your truck and be there." A strange sense of calm settled over me. This was a test, and I knew exactly how to answer. "Which airline?" I asked. She rattled off the flight number and terminal. "And please, try not to embarrass us." "They're used to a certain level of service, of course," I said. "I'll handle everything." At 2 p.m., I was not at the airport. I was in my favorite armchair, reading a book Sophia had loved, a cup of tea steaming beside me. At 2:15, my phone vibrated, a call from Chloe. I ignored it. At 2:47, a text. "Dad, where are you?" My parents landed. I turned the phone face down. By 4:15, I had 6 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic texts. I turned my phone off completely. I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of tomato soup. And as I ate, I pictured the three of them standing curbside at the airport, fuming amidst the chaos. Their perfect holiday plans derailed by the tile layer who had finally learned his worth. The soup had never tasted so good. That evening, a furious pounding echoed through my house. I opened the door to find Chloe's father, Preston, his face purple with rage. "What in God's name is your problem?" he bellowed. "We waited for over 3 hours. You humiliated my family," Chloe shrieked from behind him. I stood in the doorway unafraid for the first time in 8 years. "This is my property," I said, my voice level and hard as steel. "You are trespassing." "Get out." Preston's jaw dropped. He was a man who was used to people cowering. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he snarled. "I can make your life a living hell. I'll ruin your reputation. Your threats mean nothing to me," I replied. My reputation was built with my own 2 hands, not inherited. "Now leave. Before I call the police," I closed the door on their stunned, furious faces. But I knew Preston was not a man to make idle threats. 3 days later, Chloe made her move. It wasn't a newspaper article. It was worse. A post in our town's community Facebook group, dripping with performative concern. It had a photo of me from a few years ago, looking tired. "With a heavy heart, I'm asking for prayers for my father-in-law, Julian," she wrote. "He's been struggling deeply since the loss of his wife and is not himself. He recently had a confusing episode and left my elderly parents stranded at the airport for hours. We are so worried about his mental state and are trying to get him the help he needs." The comments poured in. Sympathy for Chloe. Concern for the confused old man. My name was being dragged through the mud by the very people I had supported, but they had made another miscalculation. They thought I would fight them in the mud of social media. They thought I was a tile layer. They forgot I was a businessman. I didn't comment. I didn't call. I spent the morning with my lawyer. The next afternoon, a courier delivered a package to Alex and Chloe. Inside, there was no angry letter. There were 2 documents. The first was a formal demand for repayment of the $168,000 I had transferred over 5 years, legally categorized as an undocumented loan, payable within 90 days to avoid a lawsuit that would include forensic accounting of every dollar I had ever given them. The second document was simpler. It was a 30-day eviction notice. When I had secured the second mortgage on my own home to give them their down payment, I had insisted my name be put on the deed as a part owner for security, a detail they had long since forgotten. My phone rang an hour later. It was Alex. His name flashed on the screen, a beacon of his panic. I looked at it, then looked out my window at my small, quiet street. The porch light, which had been broken for a year, was now shining brightly. I had fixed it this morning. I let the phone ring until it went to voicemail. I picked up a travel brochure from my coffee table. A trip to Oaxaca to see the family I hadn't visited in years. The ghosts were gone. The house was finally quiet. And for the first time in a very long time, I was free. The second document was simpler. It was a 30-day eviction notice. When I had secured the second mortgage on my own home to give them their down payment, I had insisted my name be put on the deed as a part owner for security, a detail they had long since forgotten. My phone rang an hour later. It was Alex. His name flashed on the screen, a beacon of his panic. I looked at it, then looked out my window at my small, quiet street. The porch light, which had been broken for a year, was now shining brightly. I had fixed it this morning. I let the phone ring until it went to voicemail. I picked up a travel brochure from my coffee table. A trip to Oaxaca to see the family I hadn't visited in years. The ghosts were gone. The house was finally quiet, and for the first time in a very long time, I was free.